seagulls follow the chart, it's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you.
Nobody cares, mate.
Nobody cares, mate. Nobody fucking cares, mate, honestly.
And the guy's talking absolute nonsense. I've never heard so much rubbish in my life.
Normal men.
What do you mean, normal men?
We're just innocent men.
I'm telling you, don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Oh, yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Boise bus is back. So get on board, get on. We've got a good game to talk about. Another victory for the boys. We continue that good run of momentum that we've had since the World Cup. Coming back from that, yeah, we are now 8 games unbeaten in the league, I believe it is. We are 9 points clear at the top of the table because yesterday, Dundee United 0, Celtic 2. It wasn't quite the 9-0 that we saw back in August, but 9 being the crucial number because once again, after today's win, we are 9 points in front at the top of the table. So, of course, Russell, as I said, isn't here this weekend, so I'm covering all the shows this weekend. So, you'll be fed up with my face now, but this is my 4th show in a row, 4 nights. It's a tough gig. I have to admire what Russell does, but yeah, I'm in the driver's seat tonight, and as you can see, I'm joined by another winning team to go over on the P.M.P tonight. It is Liam Greenlaw, first and foremost, of Canada's favourite Tim, my cohort on Bustalgia. Liam, we're going to be talking about present-day Celtic. That's a bit unusual for you and I, isn't it?
I know, that's why I like to get on talking about the team now. It's so hard going back retrospectively all the time. So I know grievances now, you know.
It's fresh in the memory. It was only about an hour ago the game finished. We don't have to jog into something 10 years ago, so it's all very fresh. But of course, P.M.P wouldn't be P.M.P without the man down here, Terry Robb, the face and the voice of P.M.P. Welcome aboard, sir.
Hi, Phil. You all right?
Yeah, I'm smashing, mate. Smashing. As I say, I'm four nights in now, 4 nights on the bounce. I admire Russell massively for what he does.
There's every chance I'll call you Boise at some stage during this show, but it's just out of habit.
Don't worry, mate. Don't worry about it, man. Don't worry. Well, we'll see if we get a 3-hour show tonight. Who knows? I can't necessarily promise that, but it is a school night for me. As I'm sitting here on my can of Vimto, so it's not exactly hardcore or anything. But yeah, we'll go as long as we have to. Basically, we'll see where this bus journey takes us, folks, as we embark on it. But first and foremost, before we do, I will just again remind everybody. First of all, thanks for tuning in. There's 83 of you watching right now, and it's going up very, very slowly to 84. But yeah, of course, if you are brand new to the bus, you've just discovered it, then by all means, hit the subscribe button. If you're a long-time viewer, then of course, hit that like button. Get involved in our comment section. You know, that's one of the things we always thrive on the bus, getting your interactions. Speaking of interactions, once again, I've put a little poll at the top of the comments, because I quite like that. I think it's good engagement. And of course, there's a very hot topic from today's game. It's another one of those controversial decisions involving VAR. So rather than when we get to talking about that and going through all the different, I think it was a penalty, I think it wasn't a penalty, I want to try and get a snapshot. So if you wish to vote in that poll at the top, just simply talking about the instant before half-time, just let us know if you think it was or wasn't a penalty. But of course, we will be talking about that in due course. And of course, if you wish to share the link of the Boise Bus, then by all means, please do so. That would be massively, massively appreciated. And as I always say, it's all that good stuff that helps the show out. Now, before we get into the crux of the game, there's a comment I'm going to go to right away, guys. And first of all, thank you, Kieran, because he is very good at getting his comments in before the show even goes live. I like how keen you are, so I really like that. But it's an interesting comment because he said... That was fucking shite, by the way. I think we need to have a serious discussion about our drop in form recently. So as I said there at the top of the show during the intro, that is 8 league games unbeaten now for Celtic since coming back for the World Cup. I believe we've now scored 21 goals and conceded 4 in the league in that time. The only points we dropped were to Rangers, the team who are trying to hunt us down from second place. They couldn't even beat us on what seemed like a bad day for us at Ibrox. And we've also won 2 cup games in between. Drop in form, Liam. Discuss.
We're not the Harlem Globetrotters, It's not a predestined outcome where we're just going to run away with every game. I think when I watched it today, Aaron Bhoys no dropped in form. I thought he was immense today. I think when maybe Kieran's getting the point, there is some players that still look like they're struggling to get up to speed. I don't think Greg Taylor had a particularly great game. He gave the ball away a lot of times, so you could be looking at that. I thought Johnson started to look a wee bit, some of his decision-making as well today was a wee bit off as well. And I'd like to see Tony Ralston give him a run for that spot. I think he should still be in competition for it. But other than that, I think it was just waiting for us to score. And we did, and I think that was a really good professional performance. Heads didn't go down. We just kept believing, going and playing the plan as we usually do. And good things happen, and we got the result for that. So, yeah, I don't think there's... Riley. Riley's the other one that might be struggling to hit some form as well.
Yeah.
But I think that was it. I think, okay, for what it is and playing away, yeah, it was a good win for us.
Terry, would it just be a case of... there's something that was mentioned on one of the TNFs recently where somebody just said about the general mood going into a lot of games. Early in the season, we were looking at, we're going to go in and smash someday double figures here, but... I don't know, maybe the expectations dropped a wee bit, but I think I said at the time that we're in the business end of the season now. It's just all about getting wins. If it's 2-0, 5-0, 7-0, whatever, as long as Celtic have won the game, that's all that matters. So I don't think there's much to really worry about there in that idea that there's a drop in form.
No, it's great that we've all got different opinions, and it's intriguing that different people see the same thing completely differently. But for me, it was as comfortable as you can get. Probably one of the things I think we've become accustomed now is that Celtic score early and it becomes an easy stroll in the park. And you're not going to score in the first 10 minutes every single week. We had chances. We could have scored in the first 30 seconds, and that would have made it a completely different game. We had chances in the first half, maybe not as many as we normally create, but there were probably 2 or 3 that potentially could have ended up in the net. We did hit the woodwork, although it was quite a bizarre moment. And then I thought Aaron Moy was just going to smash it into the net, and the defender blocked. Then we had the penalty that was given, then taken away. Sometimes you just have to show a wee bit of patience, and I felt that we did that, and we came out of the blocks at the start of the second half, and within 5 minutes, the game was completely put to bed. I was disappointed in Dundee United, to be honest. I was looking forward to this game, and I don't know if it's because we've had the 2 cup games there in recent weeks. I know there was a league game in between, but it's kind of just felt a little bit. It just felt to me like it's been a while since we've had a league game, even though I know that we did have one 10 days ago. And I was looking forward to this one because Dundee United gave us a bit of a scare at Celtic Park the last time that we played, and they're not in a bad run of form. And I was kind of expecting a wee bit more end to end, but they offered absolutely zero. They were really disappointing, and it was only a matter of time. I don't think they had an effort in goal really until the game was over and we were in the dying embers. But I thought it was comfortable. I don't get too excited until 60, 65, 70. If we haven't scored by then I start to contemplate the fact that we might be looking at losing points. But I think you can't expect to go in there. As Liam says, it's not a predetermined result. You have to go and you have to win the game. And today, Celtic went. They won the game. They won the 3 points on merit. They won the 3 points without any favour. They won the 3 points without any helping hands. And we're still 9 clear. And there's absolutely no signs of that 9 becoming anything less than that.
Yeah, as we're just motoring on, we are indeed. But yeah, quick summary of the first half, because it wasn't really much going on until right before half time. But I would say dominant possession in the first half, but there was no real massive spark or urgency in the final third. But Dundee United weren't even troubling us. We forced a few saves out of their goalkeeper. Probably the best one would be the one from Jota, where he controls in the edge of the area and hits it on the volley. But I think because it takes a wee bounce, it takes a bit of speed off the ball, but the keeper still gets down well to save it. So United never really threatened us at all, but obviously the big incident comes right before half time. We've been here before at Tannadice with penalty decisions that are awarded and then taken away, and that's long before VAR. In fact, we talked about it not too long ago in Bustalgia. But we obviously get a moment where the ball comes into the box, goalkeeper goes for it. He appears to clean Kyogo out as he does punch the ball away, and Don Robertson points to the spot initially. But it's one of those ones where our relationship with VAR up to now has been frosty, to say the least. I think many fans were like, this isn't cut and dry, that this is going to stick, this one. And lo and behold, that is exactly what happened. He was called to go to the screen, look at it, came back and decided it wasn't penalty. Obviously, there was a chance that it could have been offside in the first place as well. When they showed the still replay, it looked like Kyogo may have been ahead of play, which would have nullified the penalty incident anyway. Obviously, there's a still picture that's doing the rounds as well of the goalkeeper appears to, at the same time that he punches the ball, his left arm is going into the back of Kyogo's head. There is also a Dundee United defender that looks to push Kyogo into it as well and makes it look like he's been sandwiched. So there's quite a lot to unpack, Liam, with that whole incident. I've put a poll up as well, and I'll check how the results are going in a few minutes when I hand over to you. But mate, what was your initial feelings when the incident first happened?
Penalty. Jumped out my seat, screamed penalty at the screen right away. I didn't think the penalty was in the keeper. I thought it was what you said in the latter. I thought the defender, when the defender pushes you into the goalkeeper for something like that, that's a penalty. He wasn't going for the ball. He was trying to push Kyogo into the keeper so Kyogo couldn't get the ball. So for me, that's a penalty all day long. And that looked to me like the intent. I've not seen it since it's been hammered or anything like that. But yeah, it looked like a stonewall penalty to me for that. And so no on the keeper, but on the guy that pushed him into it. But I was surprised when I went on the WhatsApp group to see that wasn't as clear a decision in other people's minds. I thought it was a stonewall penalty. I was interested to see what Terry thinks.
Yeah.
Not for me. I didn't think first time round it was. Replays, I didn't think it was. I've seen the still photograph that I can see why you might give it, but I mean, still photographs are very difficult to make judgments on. I'm kind of old school. I don't want to see penalties given for every bit of contact. I think if there's a cross going in and there's a keeper and there's defenders and forwards and they're all going for the one ball, there's going to be collisions. I think it would have been really, really soft. The bit that kind of irks me a wee bit, and I don't want to talk about games that took place that we weren't in too long, but the goalkeeper comes out, and the reason the penalty wasn't given is because the goalkeeper got a faint contact on the ball before he had the impact blow with Kyogo. So that was the reason not to give it. However, we've seen a red card decision yesterday where a St Johnstone player who had been tugged from behind, which put him off balance, then made contact with the ball, but in the follow-through movement collided with another player who was coming in to sort of take part in the challenge. And that was deemed a red card, despite the fact he got contact with the ball. So I'm not in a great place with the rules of football at the minute. And I prefer, well, I don't want to sound like a Celtic dara. I prefer the game the way it used to be, where there's tackles. Not every tackle's a foul. Not every foul's a red card. Not every contact in the box is a penalty. But that one from yesterday, you can't have it both ways. If contact with the ball is the main part of the argument, then if you get contact with that ball, whatever happens in the aftermath it's by the by, really.
The thing is, I think I said in the WhatsApp chat as well, is overall with the VAR stuff, I'm just really fatigued with it all now. And it's like when, obviously knowing I had to host this tonight, and with it still being 0-0 at that point, and then that being the first flashpoint, I was like, oh God, we've got to talk about a VAR decision. It's like, oh no, please win this game, Celtic, so that is not the lasting sort of impression of the game. But yeah, I was just fatigued with it all. I'm 50-50 on it, where you've seen them given. I think somebody said in the chat earlier on, we got a penalty against Leverkusen last season, the one that Juranovic scored the Panenka, for a similar incident where a keeper cleaned one of our players out after punching the ball away. And that was with a VAR review as well, because VAR was in play for that. And then it's like, other times you won't see it given, like today, or it got overturned. And it's like, I'm the same as you, Terry, when it comes to the rules of football. I just don't know what's going on anymore. I'm not too comfortable with what's going on. This whole subjective and words like precedent and stuff like that. And it's just like, I just don't know what is happening anymore at times. They're such a head scratcher. But yeah, initially I had the same reaction as you, Liam, when it first happened. Obviously, being Celtic fan, your first reaction is penalty. It's got to be a penalty. But yeah, you do see the replay. Brown Warrior does say here, initially it does look to be offside. When you do see the still replay, but that was my first thought when I saw it. I went, he does look to be offside. That's probably what they're going to get him on here. But it seems like that wasn't what they did. They actually just took it to the actual foul itself and decided no penalty on that one. And just when I'm checking in on the current poll just now, it's currently with 87 votes, 53% are saying yes penalty and 47% saying no penalty. So that's interesting. There's a bit of debate going back and forth between the guys in the chat about it, because yeah, I knew it would be a flashpoint. But what you're saying, Terry, as well about
have you done a poll for the second one?
No, you can only do one poll on the comments at the top, I don't think we need one.
That was a penalty either, Terry.
I still didn't expect to get it, to be honest.
Well, that's true. But no, just again, going back to what you're saying there, Terry, just about other instances that we've seen, and even long before VAR comes in, when you get instances where a ball was already away from the player, but there's been a foul after the ball's already away and it gets given. But once the ball is away from that player, then should it be given? In that case there, the keeper punches the ball away. He obviously makes contact on it. But yeah, you said something as well before we came on about a still image, which can obviously influence people in the wrong way, can't it? When you just see a still rather than the full motion.
Aye, absolutely. I mean, I'm of the opinion if you win the ball, there's always going to be a clash after that, and that's I mean, it's a man's game at the end of the day. It's going to end up like basketball, where it's a non-contact sport, and I just hope I'm dead and gone before that happens.
Well, Terry, it already is like that. I feel like anytime one of our forwards gets the balls in a position like that, when it's one of the 50-50 balls, many times you've seen Kyogo and that getting a foul against a 6'4", defender because he nudged him just a wee bit, or and they always seem to get a lot. We always seem to get a lot of those given against us just outside the 18-yard box or inside when we're doing a corner. Somebody nudged somebody just delicately, and they've seen that and they've pulled it right away. I mean, that was a nudge in the back to me. I think that's a definite.
Even when the referees, when they're doing the VAR and they're doing the slow motion replay, that's totally different. That's totally different than somebody watching it in real time. Everything looks so much more blatant and obvious in slow motion than it does first time around. I've said it so many times. I'm fed up saying it. I just don't like VAR. I just wish it was. I wish it was taken away again. It's not going to be. We're stuck with it. So we just have to hope that at some point the guys that are using it are able to get themselves up to a level that's acceptable.
Yeah, going by something you've said before, Terry, on the show when you're talking about VAR, and I totally agree on this one. I'm not necessarily annoyed with some of the decisions. It is the length of time and how it is used. It is such a momentum killer, such a game killer. Look at today, how long it took for them to come to that decision. And I said it before on a show where we were talking about VAR, and one of the things that really bugs me is after every goal, it's a mandatory thing now that there's a VAR check, and I feel like the way they do it, they're kind of doing it to make it a show. So a player scores a goal, they run off and celebrate. That'll take maybe about 20 or 30 seconds. In the time that they're away celebrating, they could do the VAR check then. But what they do is they wait until they come back to the centre circle. They're all lined up, ready to kick off. And then it's like, no, wait a second, we've got to do a VAR check here, and you need to stand around and wait. And it's just the time. And you look back at the World Cup there, because a lot of countries have had VAR for a while now in their domestic leagues. I know England had a lot of teething problems initially with it, but now they're up to speed with it. Look at how it was implemented in the World Cup final in particular. I don't think the referee went to VAR at all at any point. There was many games during the World Cup where if there was a VAR decision, it was usually quite a quick turnaround. Is that, Liam, maybe just a benefit of with those type of competitions, there's more cameras and they can just get a decision quicker? Or is it because up here in Scotland, we know that I think it's 6 cameras for every single ground, which is maybe the reason why they need to look at it multiple times from every possible angle that they can do. Is that maybe what's causing that there?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I still think there was problems with VAR in the World Cup as well. I remember watching the Canada game and there was a tackle in the box that never even went to VAR, and it's like, what's the point of having it if everybody see it, but the ref just played it on? I don't know. I mean, I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely sick of VAR. I noticed that with Jota's goal as well, and I don't know because Jota does some strange goal celebrations, right? But it was at one point, just after he scored the goal, he just stood there looking at the crowd, and I'm thinking, is he waiting for VAR? Is he going to celebrate? What's going on here, you know? Because you never know. I was wondering, is that going to be off because he's at the park or something? Is there another rule about that I don't know that could get chopped off, or could defy the laws of physics that he was at the park when he scored it? Never know.
Phil, I'm nitpicking a wee bit here, but you talked about the time it took to get that decision. We didn't get that back in stoppage time.
We didn't. No, you're right. You're right.
Minutes added, but there was that stoppage which was 3 or 4 minutes in itself, and then anything else. You never get the time back. You go back to the World Cup. Do you remember the rules kind of changed after about 10 games because they'd been adding on probably the correct amount of time, and games were going on 15, 20 minutes after the 90. You never get that time back again. Celtic don't anyway. Whenever you kind of want it, you don't get it.
Yep. I think it was the England-Iran game, they added a total of 24-minute stoppage time for both halves, but I think there was head knocks as well. But I think that initially the rules they try to implement in the World Cup was every stoppage is accounted for now. So if the ball goes out for a throw-in, that gets included. Ball goes out for a corner, a goal kick, include that as well. And it was like, it's a bit ridiculous, but you're right about the VAR one, because we've seen games recently here in Scotland in the last couple of months since VAR's been in, where if there has been a VAR decision, you'll get 3-4 minutes added mandatory, plus whatever else they add for fouls and whatnot. So I did notice that as well. That was an interesting one that they decided to just go, no, we're not going to add that there. But here's Scott House saying this, and Liam, I was going to come to about the goal. So I said that just before we went on there, and this again is probably caused by VAR and what the influence it has on you as a fan. He says, I never celebrated the Jota goal because for the same reason. It was a very bizarre goal, obviously, because at first I'm like, did that go straight in from Moyes' cross? Did I hit the post on the way in? What happened there? And yeah, when I saw, okay, it was Jota's headed into the back post, my first thought was, is this going to be a goal? Now, realistically, looking at it, there's absolutely no reason for it to be disallowed, but sadly, you're in a position where they're going to find something. Something's going to happen here. There's going to be some little rule or whatever that's, it's going to cause the goal to get disallowed. That's sadly what VAR's done. And it's not even just paranoia. It's just, I even remember last time he played Dundee United, it was when Haksabanovic got his first goal, and there was a really subdued sort of mood in the stadium when he scored his first goal, and that's been a regular thing, I feel, at Celtic Park. A lot of goals, when they go in now, you're kind of like, is something going to happen here? Is there going to be an incident? So it's just more evidence, Liam, for just why it needs some sort of overhaul. They shouldn't have brought it in midway through a season. That is the first thing and foremost. If VAR had to be brought in, they needed to properly understand this, because they're now making it up as they go along.
Here we are sitting here talking about VAR when that's probably one of the best goals that I've seen for a while since Larsson was in the hoops. That ball from Moy was absolute filth. It was on the touchline when he crossed that. I didn't think, it was like he managed to hook his body right in and get an absolutely brilliant cross. Thank God for. And then Jota, the bravery again. I don't know what the keeper was doing because he was in the net. I mean, at some point he just ran into the net. He thought it was going over, but even that, it would have went in the net. I don't know, but anyway. And I thought just Jota's finish was absolutely brilliant as well. And you're right, VAR's taking all that away for us. Just bit by bit, every game, where now it's just like, I'm still conditioned to jump up and cheer when Celtic scores and that, but now it's just like, oh, did I just make an idiot out of myself? Or, you know what I mean? Like, once it just deflates, even just waiting for the answer coming back just strips all that joy for you. And I think teams thrive on that as well. You know, you need that. And so, get rid of this VAR.
I know. Well, we'll concentrate on some positives, Liam, because you said before the show, obviously, like Moy and Jota in particular, today, obviously Moy got the man of the match award. Both of them were involved in that first goal there. I say it's filth, that cross, the whip that he gets on it. So much so that I was like, did that go straight in? I think even Ian Crocker said on commentary, oh, that went straight in initially. But obviously Jota gets the head at the back post, but they two were standouts for me today, especially Moy. And I've said on the show before, obviously at the start of the season, you know, Aaron Moy was a bit of a contentious point on the show for the optics around it, as Russell would say. But I'm more than happy to take the loss on that one, that I was wrong and quite a few people were wrong, because now that he's up to speed, Terry, and now that he is motoring, quite a valuable player, and he's now forced himself into that first team. See, Matt O'Reilly has dropped aside just now, and I think O'Reilly is a good player and you'll get his form back, but I'm a big believer in you play the players that are in good form, and right now Aaron Moy is without a doubt the form man in the middle of the park.
I don't even know that O'Reilly, it's very difficult to criticise O'Reilly as being out of form. I think he's just not hitting the same heights that he has done you know, in previous spells. And I think because Moy is playing so well, it kind of becomes a natural decision that Moy then makes that three. And I just don't see any way that it's going to be anyone other than McGregor, Hatate +1 at the moment. I just don't see any other permutation given the form of Hatate this season, and McGregor's a shoe in every game, to be honest. I've just gone back to the goal. To me, it was the most un-Jota-like goal. You just don't expect Jota to be getting on the end of a cross and nodding it into the net. The pass from Moy, I just remember looking at it and thinking, it was so tight. He just got himself a few inches of space, and it was like a golf shot. It was just like a golfer who's in a really tight lie, and you just think it's impossible he's going to get anywhere near the pin here, and all of a sudden he just finds a miracle shot and lands it right where you wanted it to be. And even when you're looking at the replay, you're wondering, how did Jota get that back? Because it actually did look as if the ball was almost in level with the line, and he somehow got it round and into the net. An excellent goal, and gave us the breakthrough, which then kind of opened the game up and made it easy for us. But Moy's just purring. He's just really, really getting into gear. And again, I've kind of been wondering in my head, what's the team going to look like for the cup final? And that lineup today was probably with Carter Vickers coming back in, Taylor coming back in. And I get Liam's point. Taylor wasn't fit perfect, but he's been out for a month. I suppose if I go back to my work after a month off, I'll probably not be up to speed for a few days or a few weeks. I'm glad he's back ahead of the cup final. I kind of was nervous that he might not make that, or he might be touch and go. So it looks as if he's back. He was a bit rusty, but he came on to a game in the second half. I think that was very, very close to our strongest side today. I'd say Ange's strongest side probably has Maida in it. I like Abada, but I have to admit Abada was quiet today. He was also quiet when he started recently. But no, it's good to see Moy in that kind of form, and just hope he keeps it up between now and the end of the season, because if he does, if he's bossing a game like that, it's very hard to see us. It's very hard to see us getting beat domestically. It really is. It is.
He's a very calm head in the middle of the park. But Liam, when we're going to rename the show the Moisey Bus, because he's definitely. We have a word with Russell, won't we? Get the t-shirts printed up, the Moisey Bus. There you go, but he's on merit. He's doing well.
Do you remember the two boys come in? And this isn't a dig at Russell or anything, because Russell just says it as he sees it, and he's now said it as he sees it now, and he's enjoying watching Moy. But when him and Abelgard came in, it wasn't just Russell. There was this kind of thing that people were excited about Abelgard. but they were not excited about Moy. Moy's now come on to a real game, and I expect Abelgard to be out the door by Tuesday night. It's just strange how you've this perception of what you're getting, and through time, it completely turns on its head. And people were expecting things of Abelgard that just, for whatever reason, they just haven't materialised.
Yeah, I think it speaks volumes, doesn't it, that he had a chance to get in the team when McGregor was out injured for like 13 games and he didn't get anywhere near. I think that was a shining reflection of where Ange puts Abelgard in the pecking order. That was I'd say the nail in the coffin that, Abelgard hasn't really got much chance at Celtic if he's not getting a game when the guy who plays the same position as him is injured, and Matt O'Reilly had to get converted to what they call the number 6. So yeah, that kind of cemented that one. And you're right about I was probably fell into the same category. Abelgard, I'm like, oh, what man? He's still relatively young. He's played one game for Denmark, it turns out, but apparently counts you as an international having one cap to your name, even if you're not involved in the current sort of setup. But again, you're like, oh, I'm excited about this. He had the physical attributes many fans at the time, Terry, thought we need a big sort of physical brute at the base of the midfield to handle certain opponents. But no, evidently not. We've not needed it that much when you look at the way some of the results have went. We've just kind of beat a lot of teams just by playing the ball around them really quickly rather than any physical force, isn't it?
Looking at this window, we obviously don't know what's going on in the manager's head, but it probably feels like he has had Iwata and Kobayashi in his mind, and he knew he couldn't get them until the January window to let them finish their season in Japan. And it almost feels like he's taken Jens and Abelgard just as two bodies to cover those areas till he got his men in. And now he's prepared to just wash his hands of the other two mid-season kind of thing, mid-loan, mid-agreement. We've obviously got rid of Jens. Depends what happens with Abelgard. Obviously, the player will look out for his own interests in terms of securing his salary and all that kind of thing. But I would imagine if Celtic can move him on before Tuesday, that would be one that the club will look to do. Tuesday, obviously, on the horizon. It's probably worth just around the room. Do you think around incomings, outgoings? I think we'll probably try to. Giakoumakis, I think, will be gone. I don't see any way he'll be gone to one of those two teams. Abelgard will go if we can get someone to take him. I'd say there's a distinct possibility Ideguchi will go back to Japan. And beyond that, I probably don't see any outgoings. I certainly don't see any of the main first team players going out. Yeah. And probably wishful thinking, but we might get one in. I don't know. I don't know what your thoughts are.
I think it'll be more outgoings than incomings, and I agree with you. I don't think you're going to see at the 11th hour like a big money bid coming in for one of the first teamers, like a Southampton coming in for a Bada or something like that at the 11th hour. I don't think it'll be anything. It'll be mostly just be fringe players. Say Abelgard probably will be sent back to Rubin Kazan, or I don't know what the logistics are in that one because of the situation out in Russia, if that's possible or what's going to happen there. I think we said on the TNF the other night there was a few names that were thrown up, like McCarthy and so on. Obviously, Jens has already left. Ideguchi, definitely. I mean, I don't think he's got much hope now of getting into the team. He's just a jersey at the moment within the squad. And in terms of incomings, I'd be quite surprised. As a football fan, obviously, you're always a wee bit excited, when transfer windows come around, because back in the day, it used to be you could sign players for the full season, but then transfer windows came in, so you're restricted to a certain time. As a football fan, you always want more. You always want that wee bit more. And it's like, yeah, it's good, but just a wee bit more on top of that would be great. So there's a natural instinct, but at the end of the day, we'll trust Ange's judgment on it. If he's happy with the squad through the end of the season, then I'm happy as well, Terry. What about yourself, Liam?
I've been looking to try and get rid of McCarthy, but I mean, he's injured now, so that sort of takes him out the shop window. Unfortunately.
Of course he's injured.
Of course, right. Anyway, so I'd love to see if we could strengthen that left back. I know I'm a broken record about Greg Taylor, and I'm still not convinced, right? I'm not convinced with Bernabei either. And at that point,
I can agree with you on that one. Yep.
We've got a stacked midfield. We're stacked at the back. All right. I think just somewhere out there is a better option than Greg Taylor. Just that somebody might be just a wee bit better, a bit quicker, a bit braver, a bit more physical. All those are good things to add. I heard Muppets through the week on another podcast actually asking, do you think if we were to re-sign Tierney, he would get a spot ahead of Greg Taylor. Ahead of Greg Taylor. Get his piece. It's like, come on.
Wow.
He's done well. He's proved me wrong. Well, Moy proved me wrong. I mean, I thought Moy was going to be a disaster as well. And some of the games that where Russell and I were on, we were talking about, it was like the wrong size of cog in a machine. Now he's running that machine. He's the big cog. Taylor, I don't know. I still don't see him as a go-to Celtic player. And I know he scored a winning goal and that, but why not? We're all about being better, faster.
Yeah.
I think he can get faster, better than Taylor. And I'd love to see us bring in a surprise left back right now that's going to challenge him for the place, because nobody's really challenging him.
Yeah, I think a bit of the concern around that is because, I mean, Taylor has massively improved from where he was when he initially came in. He's won a lot of people over. I think he is good, but the worry is when he isn't available. What we saw recently, and obviously Juranovic is away, so that's not an option anymore, but we obviously seen an incident at Ibrox where you had a natural left back on the bench, Bernabei, and he opted to put on a player who's not a natural left back, although had played there a couple of times for us. And Juranovic had a shocker that day. So it's a case of if Taylor was to get injured between now and the end of the season, once the window's closed, and I'm just kind of showing with does he trust Bernabei in the big situation? If he's forced to, he's got to play him for the rest of the season. I think there's still a long way to go, Bernabei. I'm not writing him off yet completely. I still think he's a young, sort of raw prospect. But it could be a good year or so before we start to see the best of him. But right now, we're in a position where, if Taylor does get injured, Bernabei would have to play, and he would have to put his faith in him. Regardless of, if he trusts him or not, that might be the only option. Because I don't think there's we've discussed this many times about the B team. I don't think there's much chance of many of them getting promoted. It seems like that's a very rare occurrence that you see one on the bench, never mind in the first team. So I can see
high
where it
hopes.
comes from.
I had high hopes for Adam Montgomery. I thought he got a run at one stage, not last season, the season before. I kind of thought, he looked as if he might have something, but he probably hasn't kicked on. He's been out on loan, obviously, for this season, and was in the wrong end of quite strong challenge yesterday, shall we say?
Yeah,
He set up got a Jota's goal when we won away at Aberdeen. That was Adam Montgomery came down and crossed that ball across for Jota.
I thought he looked as if he had something about him, but
Terry.
As here's Chris saying would rather play Hatate at left back than Bernabei. I'm pretty sure when Hatate came in, that was a talk that was one of his positions. We already played right back for us. Hatate, he was amazing, to be fair. Yeah, he was fantastic that day. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like Hatate can do anything, so he probably can play left back. We'll just go on that one. But just going quickly back to the game, obviously, the second goal, Adam Moy was talking about him there and how good he was. Obviously, he did get a goal. He's now become the penalty taker. It seems we've actually got a guy that's on a consistent run of penalties. So hopefully that doesn't end anytime soon, because what it's like with Celtic. You get a guy that'll go. Well, Juranovic did it as well. He scored like 7 or 6 penalties. Then, of course, he finally missed one in the Bernabeu. But with Moy here, he's on a good wee run with the spot kicks, but obviously the incident itself, it was a VAR one. So the big talking point regarding that, and I know I'd seen Alex Subsea in the chat earlier saying, can we stop talking about VAR and talk about football? But sadly, this game today, the 2 goals or the 2 major incidents all revolved around VAR, but we obviously got our second goal from it. History was made. Celtic actually got a penalty from a VAR decision that was a handball, but again, there's still a few fans, me included, was like, after what happened against Hearts in the very first VAR game, when you saw what Michael Smith did, you're like, I wouldn't be surprised if Don Robertson just quickly goes, okay, no, just play on, like what we saw that day against Hearts. But no, it did obviously, and when you saw the replay, I'm out my seat screaming, that's a fucking penalty. He better fucking give this. And but he had to go to the screen and check it, which was bizarre in itself, because again, you think it was Ewan Anderson was the referee on the VAR duty. Surely he would have had enough, Russell before we say this courage of his conviction to say it's a penalty. You don't even need to come and look at it. That's a penalty. But no, he had to go over to the screen and do a site check on it. It's cut and dry for me. And then bizarrely, again going by precedent, we've seen Matt O'Reilly and Bernabei get booked for handballs that they didn't mean. Obviously, through VAR, they got a penalty given against them. This boy who was gives away the penalty, he's already on a booking. For some reason, the referee, Liam, just obviously gives us a penalty, fair play, but he did miss that part where it's like, well, the boy's intentionally handballed it. He stuck his arm out and pulled it away to try and hide it, It was an intentional handball, so it was a booking for me.
They've made a controversy where nothing existed. That was all clear as day. Everything that happened. Now it's going to be chalked up to, well, you should be happy now. See, VAR is working for you. That's no VAR. That's the laws of the game. That's in every other game that you play, and that is a handball. You don't need a linesman to help you with that. You don't need VAR. You can tell right away. Look at the player's reaction. As soon as you see him tucking that arm back behind his back, like, look, I didn't even have an arm on this side of my body. Like, you know right away it's that admission of guilt. Just one thing for pass on to Terry is I like the way Moy takes a penalty. Right? So the guys that I like to take penalties, I like when a player takes 4 or 5 steps to run at it. I don't like the ones that take 1 step back and try and place it. I always think they're going to miss there because the keeper can guess the body language. But when you're building up speed, and the way Moy hits it hard, he's decisive, and it's great, you know. No tricks, no panelkas, just picking a spot and fucking burying it.
Liam, you feel confident he's going to put it in the net. Now, I'll probably put the scud on him and he's going to miss one in a big game. But as long as I've been supporting Celtic, I don't remember a penalty taker that you could hang your hat on. Maybe thinking back, Brian McClare may have been one, but beyond that, we've really, really struggled to get someone that you would. John Collins was a good penalty taker. I'll give him that. Aaron Moy, I just feel as if he's going to score every time he's stepped up. I think that's 4 now that he's took, possibly 4 penalties that he's took and scored.
Morton had today, and there's another one. I think there is a 4th one.
At least 3.
At least 3 anyway.
Yeah. But you know, I seen a poll during the week on social media. If you had to pick one player throughout your whole Celtic life to take a penalty to win you £1 million, who would you pick? And the amount of people that said Henrik Larsson was unbelievable. Larsson would have been at the bottom of my list given his record. Larsson.
Didn't Russell say it in a recent show? Said he was 50-50 with Larsson taking penalties sometimes because he did have a bit of a sketchy record.
Larsson's record was poor. I don't think he was any bigger than maybe like 3 out of 5 or something like that. Which
Andy Lynch, there's an old school shout there. Tommy Gemmell.
Yes, before me. But I just feel you feel confident with Moy going up there. He looks confident. There's no fuss. Set the ball down, stick it in the net.
His technique is good, and hopefully the run continues. Because for as long as I've been supporting Celtic, you always get a player who'll go on a nice wee run till they miss one, then they change it again. Maybe Alan Thompson, he had a good run, then he missed
one during the week now, isn't he? And then we're all
no, have to change it to somebody else now.
Just going back to the decision, Liam. You said you don't need VAR. We did need VAR because Don Robertson missed that.
He missed it in live play,
and he missed that. How on earth does he miss that? Right. And Phil, you touched on the Michael Smith one. That was the exact same. Both of those were the exact same. Smith did the same thing. He stuck his hand out. He pulled it away. He had a wee look round to see who was watching. They were identical. But Don Robertson didn't give that. He had to get a word in his ear. And then after that, then the surprising bit is that he even had to go over and look at it. Why I think you gave the guy's name, was it Ewan Anderson? You said
Ewan Anderson was the VAR ref tonight. Aye.
Why could he not have said, "Look, Don, there's no point in you wasting your time coming over here. It's an absolute stonewaller. Just give it." But no, he has to go over and have a look at it. I don't know. We'll move on.
This whole performance was poor today. I thought the amount of times he stopped us in play to go back and see if Dundee United players were okay. I mean, these weren't head knocks or anything. One, there was a guy that just slipped. There was another guy that stepped over the ball and got a foul against us for that. He stood on the ball. He's very, very quick to give a foul against us in the middle of the park without any VAR, without anything. But he can't see that. And I think that's just down to lack of bravery. He's shitting himself. He didn't want to make that decision. So I think he just let it go. And then he said, if they go crazy in the crowd, I'll wait till the ball stops and I'll go and get VAR, theatrics, stand there like that, look cool.
Do you know if anybody's been able to check in on Andy Walker yet? He was behaving very bizarrely during the game. He actually said something he had sense.
Well, there was a really passive-aggressive comment that he made just after there was an incident where Abada closed one of the Dundee United defenders down, and in the going for the ball, there was a bit of contact, and he went down, and Dundee United got away with the ball. And I think Ian Croker said, "Oh, Don Robertson's just having a quick check regarding that," and then he said something like, "Yes, they're looking for fouls now." And it was just like the way he delivered it, his cadence on it. It was like a very passive-aggressive comment, and I actually said that in the group chat where I was like, I just seemed really like unnecessary. But Steve-O said that it is a case that it feels like at times they are just looking to use VAR just for the sake of it. But yeah, it was just the way he delivered it to me. Just felt like, well, that was a bit unnecessary. Andy Walker, a wee bit of venom in your voice there the way you said that one. But I was nothing new with Walker, and then Dana was talking about those soup taking and stuff like that. He is very quick to stick the boot in the club at times, and with some of his opinions he comes away with. But that one stood out to me today when he threw that one in there, or they're just looking for decisions now or something like that. And it was like, okay, where did that one come from? But in the end, say comfortable enough victory. Dundee didn't really threaten us, but the other major talking point I'd say, because the game did peter out pretty much after the 2 goals. United never really looked like getting back in it, but obviously we got a chance, a very brief chance, to see the new striker. Came off the bench with only 10 minutes left. Not really that long to judge him, and I wouldn't really be looking to judge him in any way, shape, or form. A comfortable victory, so just as well as. But he did have one good moment near the very, very end of the game, right at the very death, Liam, where he stuck a brilliant crossover from the right hand side, because people said that he can also play on the right as like a right forward, and he'd also just drifted out there, put a fantastic cross in, and Maeda unfortunately put it over the bar from close range, but it was good delivery. But do you have any impressions of him in the short time we got to see him? Not enough, really.
I think he looks physically good. Like, he's got a presence on the pitch, look confident. Sometimes you can, what do you tell? You can tell about how the player runs, his sort of physicality and challenging for tackles and all that. He looks like a guy that looks unintimidated by Scottish football. And that's good, but we'll see what he's like once he gets a lot of time. I thought he had one good run through the middle of the park. He was very composed and showed a lot of muscle getting through the middle of the park. The ball, he ran for about maybe 20, 30 yards with it, passed it to the wing. Maybe he was just shooting the wings, showing him, hey, listen, this is the type of boys I like in the box. Mr. Miada, help me out. And he was just doing a demonstration there of here's how I like my boys. But I thought Miada should have buried that.
Oh, he should have. Yeah, he should have. This might have done into it. He has his moments. He's got a screamer, then can do that.
I'm looking forward to seeing more of him. So that's good. I'm excited. That's another player for us now that we can bring on, and I want to see this develop. And all right, Ange, if you've got a vision of what this team is, and these are all guys that you had your eye on before, okay, let's integrate them into the team now, so it doesn't seem to be like this apprenticeship thing where we're waiting for ages to see a player, and then we see them 3 months and they're brilliant. I'm hoping if they're up to speed, let's find ways of getting them into the team, because I thought Kyogo was good at times. I thought his running was off the ball. That bit where he chased down the goalkeeper, nearly scored for it, that would have changed the game completely early on if he'd just got a wee bit more luck of that. But that rattled their keeper right early doors, like he did not want the ball at his feet at that point. So yeah, I'd like to see O introduce. I wish he'd be a bit more longer, but that's life,
What about yourself, Terry? Any early impressions on O, and what about Wednesday coming up? Do you think that I don't think he'll start personally, but obviously Livingston, bit of a physical team, to put it lightly, being polite about it. Physical would probably be the word you used to describe them, but do you think he'll be in and about the team for a bit longer on Wednesday night to ruffle some of the Livingston feathers at the back?
He reminds me of a wee weightlifter. Just when he come on there, he's quite broad across the shoulders and very, very strong looking. I thought he looked very shy. Kyogo was trying to get him over to do the singing at the end.
Yeah.
He dipped his toe in and then he backtracked a wee bit. He needs to come out of his shell. He needs to show a wee bit more confidence there. Nah, he wasn't on long enough. I remember that moment you said, Liam, where he picked the ball up in the centre. He looked to drive forward and then play a pass. Nothing long enough, to make any kind of informed opinion. But I think what will probably happen is he got roughly about 10 or 15 there, did he, today?
10 minutes plus a bit of stoppage time that they played.
depending how the game's going on Wednesday, if we're comfortably ahead or we're needing a goal, you probably could see him maybe get that up to 25, 30 minutes, something like that. Is he going to be number one striker? I very, very much doubt it, but he certainly he's going to be the second choice. I would imagine come Wednesday morning we're going to have Kyogo, and then Maeda as backup, probably as our strike force.
Yeah.
But it's going to be Kyogo. As long as Kyogo's fit, Kyogo's going to play. I don't see that changing between now and the end of the season.
Yeah, same. It's I think with O coming in, I think he's happy to sort of wait for his chance when it comes up. I think Giakoumakis was very eager to be the number one. To be fair, with some of the numbers that he put up, you couldn't really argue with it at times with some of the form that he showed. But obviously now Giakoumakis is heading off to pastures new, it seems, and I think O will just bide his time. And I think when he does get chances starting games, I'm quite hopeful that he will take them. I've got a good feeling about this lad just from sort of early impressions there. But hopefully we get to see more of him on Wednesday night. But obviously, other than talking about the game tonight, there was something that did happen, a landmark moment. We're talking here about maybe seeing more of O on Wednesday night, but a guy we've seen a lot of, because today was a very special day for Kalmak. 400 games for the club, 400 not out. Yeah, remember when he made his debut under Ronnie back in 2014, the goal against Reykjavik in a qualifying game in front of about 300 fans in a little tiny stadium. But yeah, here we are now in 2023. He's the club captain. He has played now 400 games for the club. Liam, did you foresee him ever getting to this level when you think back to 8 years ago when he first appeared in the team? Do you remember there was any buzz about him or anything at the time?
I didn't see him as being a midfield general at that point. I thought he was developing into a striker, or he'd be our attacking midfielder. The way he settled into that role, that surprised me. I thought he was very good today at times. There was times when he picked up the ball. He was very brave at going in and capturing the ball. There was a lot of balls bouncing about in the air that took somebody with a bit of courage to go up and challenge for. He never backed down. Some of the tackles that were flying in midfield, he came through. I thought he was really composed. And you just see he's always there to help the teammates. He's always into space, and he's always looking to take that pressure off as well. And 400 games. Do you think how many do you think he'll get total, Terry? How many do you think he'll get up to? 600? 700? Age is he 28?
He's 29. So given that he plays 50 games a season, probably on average, he's still going to be playing when he's 33. 450s, 200, 600. I'll be surprised if he doesn't get to 600. I don't see him leaving. I think that's one of the things that you've got to mention when you're talking about Callum McGregor. As I'm pretty certain Callum McGregor's had opportunities to go down south. I'm pretty certain Brendan would have taken with him. I'm pretty certain that those conversations were had, and the lad didn't want. He didn't want to go. Celtic's his team. He had to bide his time a little bit. He didn't really get into the team until he was 21, even though he'd been at Celtic from he was no age. And probably if things had transpired slightly differently, he would have been gone, because he had a very successful loan spell down south, and I think there was probably chat of that becoming permanent. And for whatever reason, something happened that then enabled him to get his opportunity. Was it Ronnie Dyler brought Callum McGregor through?
2014-15 season. He'd had a loan spell at Notts County, playing alongside one Jack Grealish, who was also on loan at Notts County at the time as well. But yeah, he got his first break in the team in 2014-15, and he scored in his very first game that he started against Reykjavik in a Champions League qualifier. As I say, about 300 fans or something, a little tiny stadium in Iceland. But that was his first goal.
That's not surprising, because he was an attacking midfielder in that loan spell with Notts County in the lower leagues in England. He scored 15 goals, and when he did make the breakthrough, he was an attacking midfielder. And I think it just shows his versatility now that he's regarded as this. I don't even want to call him a holding midfielder, because a holding midfielder reminds you of that player who just wins tackles and gives the ball to somebody who's better than them. But that's not McGregor. McGregor's the complete midfielder. He can play the holding role. He can play the attacking role. He can play the 6, the 8, the 10. He can do everything. And I think he kind of flies under the radar a wee bit, because he's not flash. He's, you know, he doesn't go out there and he doesn't try to make it all about him. He doesn't, you know, he does the simple things so well, and that's a skill in itself that a lot of footballers can't master. Is get the ball, win the ball, give it to a teammate, go and get it again. You know, he recycles play so well. He's a very, very intelligent player, and it's very difficult when you're thinking about the sort of the best players you've seen over your life and things like that. You don't automatically think of Callum McGregor. You think of some of the other players who are probably a little bit more flash, but then you have to ask yourself, do they do anything better than what he does? And no, they probably don't. And I honestly think that if we wanted to move him forward into that attacking role, he probably would start scoring the goals again. I know there's question marks around his shooting and things like that, but I just think he's a complete midfielder. He can play any role you want, and he absolutely loves being at Celtic. And yeah, he's. I'll be surprised if he doesn't get to 600, and I think 600 would then possibly take him into the top 10 of all time, which would be an amazing achievement.
I believe it would. He's definitely on course for it. I mean, there was a period a couple of years ago where he was playing like 60 games in a calendar year when you include the Scotland games as well. It's like, this guy's like the Duracell bunny. He just keeps going and going and going. Obviously, he's had a few injuries in recent times, and that's going to happen as you get older. They're going to catch up to you, but I still think he's got a lot left in the tank. And one thing that I love about his play as well is just he's always shown for the ball. And this system that Ange is playing, you know, because he drops deep, he's always like making himself available, even in like really difficult situations. I can remember very early in Ange's tenure when we lost at Ibrox, the one when Hollander scored, the infamous Christie and Edward started like the sort of final games. There was a few points in that game where our backline were just panicking under pressure, but again we were very calm passing it out because McGregor was coming back, showing for the ball and trying to direct traffic. And of course later in that season we would go to Ibrox and have the worst possible start you can have, where Aaron Ramsey put them ahead after like 3 minutes or something. But who was it, of course, that decided to take the game by the scruff of the neck? Just make that lum-busting run into the box, just pick up the ball and just go at them. It's Callum McGregor by a captain's role. And that's a thing, Liam, that I think because Scott Brown was around for so long and his style on the park and his where he was a captain, when somebody new had to take the armband when Scott Brown left, you know, so many fans were so used to Scott Brown's, like they couldn't imagine anybody else as captain. And I think there was a few fans out there that had their reservations where, is McGregor going to be like Brown? But you don't need to be like shouting and, you know, the way like you're getting in players' faces, try to influence them. McGregor seems to have a more calm way about it, the way he does it, and he clearly has a massive influence on the team, doesn't he?
He influences the game by picking up the pace. You can see him, he's going like that while he's running. That means that, all right, we're going to take it up a notch, you know, almost like an orchestra, you know, that he's leading the band in that. I think Callum McGregor is one of these players that you can drop into any Celtic team from 67 on, and he could probably find a way to play in that team. You know, I mean, that is a massive, massive compliment. You know, I think he's an unbelievable player. And as far as his leadership on the field and all that, I mean, coming back last year with that face mask on, that took guts, you know, and I think that shows the players as well. There's our captain out there, and so didn't have to be vocal there, but that was very, very much a, you know, a significant visual, you know, if you're looking for, as Russell would say, optics, you know, here's my captain, just back broken jaw, he's playing and he's gone in hard, you know, great player.
Speaking of face mask, Callum McGregor, Terry, I think one of the immortal images of last season was the Barisic moment where Borna was coming forward and decided, nah, don't fancy that, when McGregor closes him down and you get the whole shite bag. He shouts it up. He backs up and passes the ball back the way.
One of the stories that sort of told me that Callum McGregor was a leader was off the park, but it was Joe Hart of approaching 80 England caps when he'd signed for Celtic, then gets a phone call from Callum McGregor to welcome him into the party, kind of thing. And to me, that shows you where Callum McGregor stands within Celtic Football Club. Because you can imagine for him, he's only played at Celtic, he plays for Scotland. This is a guy who's played for England close to 80 times. This is a guy with Premier League titles. This is a guy that's played in the latter stages of the Champions League, but yet Calmac contacts him and says, I'm the captain, I'm welcoming you in, that kind of thing.
That's it.
You know, and he seems to have the complete respect of everybody. And I often wonder what he says in the huddle now with so many different guys who probably haven't a clue what he's saying, kind of thing. And you can see him in there, and the fist is going the whole time, and it doesn't matter what he's saying or if he's saying nothing, he's getting the message through to the guys. And probably another 4 years at his peak, I would imagine, between now and age 33.
I think so, yeah.
He seems a really, really fit lad. I don't see him struggling with fitness or anything. Just hope he stays injury free. He obviously had that bad knock last year with the face, but if he stays injury free, we'll get another good 4 years out of him anyway. And who knows, maybe sometime down the line, I'd imagine Callum will be somebody that Celtic want to keep around the club whenever his playing days come to an end.
Yeah, I think he's got that sort of like in the works when he does retire, because of the knowledge that he'll be able to pass on to youngsters if he's in a coaching role or just as an ambassador role, just being around the club. I think he'll have a wealth of knowledge when his playing career does come to an end. But hopefully, so that's 400 games down. Hopefully there's many more to come. And just a wee quick one before we finish then regarding Callum McGregor. Favourite goal? Mine, I absolutely love the one against Rangers where he passed into the net and you get that noise of it hitting the back of the net, and the goal frame kind of shakes a wee bit. It was the one at Hampden, the cup semi-final. We beat them 2-0. And it's because it was down at because of the way the Hampden split with the 50-50 allocation, and the Celtic fans are down at the other end. And of course, the view at Hampden for most fans is quite rotten anyway when you're down the other end and the team scores. So there's that sort of brief delayed reaction to the ball going in, but because of the being quiet, you get that noise, that perfect noise as the ball hits the back of the net. I love the way he just passed that one into the net. And then also similarly, the next game we played them, we beat them 5-1 at Ibrox. He also has another one where he passes into the net from the edge of the area. Fantastic goals. What about yourself, Liam? What's your favourite Callum McGregor goal along the way?
I mean, they two come to my mind as well. I can't mind any specific. I'll make it quick though, but I just like the type of goals that he scores. Is the ones where he's composed, he's at the edge of the 18-yard box, it's across the face of the goal, and it's a daisy cutter, and he finds that back post. I think he did a lot of that under Rodgers, and I think he scored one like that this year as well, which was a winning goal for us as well. Maybe one of the early games against Aberdeen, I think. But yeah, I mean, he's just got an eye for goal. I'd like to see him score more. I think that's coming up. I think that's what we're missing today. I wanted to see somebody shooting for that position today. Somebody could get something on there. I know there was a lot of bodies in front of us, but I'd like to see maybe if Callum can get that part back to his game again, and then he's just back to that complete player again.
Indeed. Terry, what about yourself? Any goals that spring to mind for Calmac?
I've got one. I'll mention the recent one against Aberdeen just because it gave us a really valuable 3 points and it looked as if we weren't getting it. But my favourite one that comes into my head is the winner against Zenit, because not only was it an excellent finish, but he managed to get himself into such a good position that even Charlie Musonda was able to find him.
That's right, Charlie Musonda's one and only contribution. That was the one. Great goal, that one. Just a shame at the second leg, it all went a little bit peak-tong, sadly. But say, hopefully with Callum McGregor, there's many more goals, moments, and especially trophies lifted to come now that he's the captain. You know, that image of him lifting trophies. Hopefully that starts from February 26th. So guys, that's us actually just hit the hour there. I'm sorry to those in the chat. I know P.M.Ps recently have been going for about 3 hours, but I say I've got the old school night tonight. I've got work in the morning at like back of 6. I need to get up and yeah, I'll need to go and get stuff sorted for being in the office and whatnot. But yeah, guys, that's us wrapped up another 3 points. Onwards and upwards to Livingston on Wednesday at home. Before we go, though, Russell Bhoys has been in the chat causing mischief from afar. He's posting these emojis of like bumblebees. I don't really know what the connotations to that must be. He just keeps on throwing it out there. It seems to be up to a wee bit of mischief. So we'll leave the viewers to figure that one out, or what that's relating to. But Liam, enjoyed yourself tonight on P.M.P?
It was good. I wasn't sure if I enjoyed that game or not when I was watching it, but I've enjoyed the P.M.P. It's in my system now. I think I'm good. I'm ready to go. Thanks for having me on, Phil. Thanks for having me on, Terry. I appreciate it.
No worries. And Terry, Mr. P.M.P, another one in the bag. Enjoyed that one, yep.
We're just counting down. We're just counting down the weeks. So hopefully during the week, home to Livingston. Be very disappointed if that's not 3 points. Next weekend, we're away to St Johnstone quite early on the Sunday afternoon.
We are, yeah.
Fully expecting we're sitting here next week with another 6 points in the bag.
Yeah, fingers crossed, my man. So yeah, we'll head off now. As I said in the last few nights, obviously I was doing 4 on the Bhoys, but Russell is back on Tuesday because as normal on the Boise bus, because we just do things this way. It'll be a Monday club on a Tuesday, I believe, this week because he won't be available tomorrow neither. And Wednesday, we'll have breakfast bar. There'll be a P.M.P on Wednesday night, TNF, Bustalgia, all the usual fun and frolics on the bus. So we're heading out here thanks to the 185 that are still watching just now, minding hit that like button, helps us out massively. And yeah, Celtic still top of the table, still 9 points clear. That is indeed the way we like it. So we'll catch you later, folks.
Good night.
Well, you've all that stuff at the start. You know, they won't be playing Tina Turner on the coach on the way home, will they?
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now. And you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan. He's a Rangers puppet. He's a cheerleader. That's what he is.